Hi everybody, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to calculate the macros that you need to cut. In other words, the macros, how many grams of protein, carb, and fat that you need to stick to every day to cut fat and maintain muscle. Now, not every day for the rest of your life, just for a few weeks, so 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. And then from there, you can have a cheat meal every now and again. We talk more about this in Meal Planning Mastery. But I'm giving you the groundwork in this particular video, okay? And I talk about how you can be more flexible, in my Meal Planning Mastery course. So I'm going to show you how to calculate your macros for fat loss without starving yourself, and let's get into it. So on your screen, we've got, the macros for protein, fat, and then carbohydrate, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So protein is like the king of the macronutrients. We're going to start our calculation off by calculating how much protein that you need to eat every day, right? So that you can maintain muscle, because remember, protein's for muscle and also for cellular development and that kind of thing, producing hormones and enzymes and cellular replacement, right? So protein is not just for building muscle. And then we'll talk about fat, and then we'll talk about carb. So in this calculation, we're going to look at protein, and on your screen right now, that's the calculation you're going to use to calculate how much protein you're going to eat every day. So if I get my highlighter over here, so you're going to go with 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. That's the calculation that's based off science for somebody who's going to be training on a regular basis. So if you're going to the gym lifting weights, which I highly suggest that you consider some kind of weight training or some kind of exercise program, really, because that's really that will give you the full picture of health, not just, restricting a bunch of calories, but getting into the gym or even doing something outside, playing a sport or whatever else. But if you're going to the gym lifting weights, then it becomes paramount to keep your protein levels nice and high. So you're going to calculate this quite simply using I'm going to use myself as an example, and then you're going to do your own calculation using my own example, right? Just to follow along and get an idea of how to calculate it for yourself. So 0.9 grams per pound of body weight is how much protein you're going to calculate. Multiply that by your weight in pounds, works out, in this example, to be 182 grams of protein. I can sometimes have up to 180, 190, 200 grams of protein, right? But you don't need any more than 0.9 grams per pound. You can have 1 or 1.1 grams per pound. The only real benefit of having more protein per pound of body weight is to keep your body more satiated for longer. But according to the research, there's not many research papers out there which recommend any more than about 0.9 grams per pound of body weight per day. So as long as you're getting a minimum of 180 thereabouts, 180 grams of protein every day, right? And you can do that through whole foods first and foremost, through whole foods, right? Through meat, chicken, eggs, fish, nuts, and so forth. But a lot of guys find that to get that much protein, you do need to supplement with some kind of protein powder, which can be, you can use casein, egg protein, whey protein. If you're a vegetarian, you could go with a plant-based protein. So I talk more about that in other courses, I have my protein course. I talk about that over there. If you're interested, check it out. So 180 grams of protein every day. You're going to calculate this based on your weight in pounds. And then once you calculate that, so we've got 182, then we're going to work out how many calories that equates to. Now, there's 4 calories per 1 gram of protein. So if 182 grams of protein is what we need, and there's 4 calories per gram, then that's 728 calories that 182 grams is equivalent to. So hope you're taking notes, writing this down for yourself. And when you go back to do this calculation for yourself, then, just make sure, just follow along. You cannot go wrong with this. I've made it really, really straightforward. When I was learning this for the first time, it wasn't as simple. I was trying to learn from people that didn't really know how to explain things properly, and I tried to understand what they were saying and everything else. Once you've calculated protein, then we're going to go to calculating fat, the macronutrient of fat. So how much fat do you need every day? Yes, you do need fat. No, it's not about starving yourself of fat and going no fat. Your body does need fat to survive. If you don't have fat, you die. That's how important fat is in the body. Fat insulates, the neurons in your brain. Your fat is so important. It insulates, your organs in your body. It's really essential to have some minimum amounts of fat. And in terms of macros, there's a certain fat range that is recommended that everybody has every day. And it's usually recommended that an adult have between 20 to 35% of their recommended daily intake of calories from fat. It's a big range to pull from. So I've gone with the minimum that's recommended by, professionals out there in the industry. So if you go with 0.2 grams per pound of body weight and calculate that in grams, that's how much fat you'll have every day. So using my example, 0.2 multiplied by 202 pounds gives me 40 grams of fat. So I've got 182 grams of protein, 40 grams of fat, and then the rest of my calories are going to go to my carbs right down here. I'm going to talk about the carbs in the next slide. So back to fat, 40 grams of fat is how much I have every day. Now, if I go down and calculate how many calories that equates to, 40 grams of fat is equal to 363 calories. Because remember, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So 1 gram of fat is very energy dense. So to calculate that in calories, 40 multiplied by 9 is 363 calories. All right. So then what we do is we go to the next slide to calculate. So remember, we calculate protein, we calculated fat, then the rest of our calories from our calorie target is going to be given to carbohydrate. So I've run through that calculation here. At the very top of your screen, just say my goal, remember 2,205 calories was how many calories I need to maintain to lose fat. And we talked about that in the previous video, if you remember that. So goal number 1 for my example was that my new calorie target is 2,205 calories. Now, of that 2,205 calories, 728 is going to be from protein, 363 is going to be from fat. We've just calculated those in the previous slide, those 2 macronutrients. So if I subtract those 2 from 2,205, I get 1,414 calories. So that's how many calories I'm going to give to carb. I'm going to give that amount of calories to carbohydrate. Now, what does that mean in terms of grams? So that means if I get that number divided by 4, now you're going to come up with your own numbers, but you're going to use this workflow to calculate your own numbers. So in terms of grams of carbohydrate, that works out to be 278 grams of carbohydrate. So then if I summarize this for you, it means that of that calorie target, that's the very first thing we calculated in that slide, BMR, TDEE, deficits, and surpluses, if you remember that video. The calorie target, 2,205 calories, breaks down into 3 macronutrients: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. So we've calculated this based on our goal. I want to lose fat, I want to maintain muscle, and then these macros here we've just calculated right now: 182 grams of protein, 278 grams of carb, and 40 grams of fat. If I go back, 182 grams here, 40 grams here, and then the rest of that, those calories are going to be donated to carbohydrate. Yes, you do need carbohydrates for energy. Your brain needs carbohydrates to function. You need carbs to survive. So what we're doing is we're allowing you to eat as many calories as you can without going over your calorie target. How cool is that? You're not starving yourself. You're going, all right, this is how many calories I need to maintain my weight. This is how many calories I need to maintain fat loss. And then all we're doing is we're determining, because we want to maximize body composition. We don't want you to strip away your muscle. That's why we're keeping protein nice and high. So we keep protein nice and high. We need fat because fat stimulates hormone production and hormones involved in building muscle. And then we have our carbohydrate, which is also necessary to help shuttle the protein into the muscle cells to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. You need all 3. You can't just go gung-ho with protein and expect to build a bunch of muscle, lose a bunch of fat. It doesn't work like that. If you want to be healthy, if you want to lose fat without starving yourself, then this is the way to do it. This is effective. So you're eating up to a certain number of calories with those macronutrients. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take those macros and you're going to put those 3 macronutrients into MyNetDiary or MyFitnessPal, or you can take them into a spreadsheet, a meal planning spreadsheet, along with that calorie target, and you'll put that into either the phone application or the spreadsheet. And then all you'll do is you'll just pick the foods you want to eat against those macronutrients. Make sure you don't go over your calorie target. Remember, it's, you want to be 50 to 100 calories within your calorie target, and you want to be like about within 5% of your macros. So I'm not saying you have to be exact and you have to exactly hit 2,205 calories. Call it 2,200 calories, plus minus 50 to 100 calories. And with your macros, if you hit 185 protein or 190 protein or 170 protein, just don't go much lower than 170, right? It's plus minus 5% on each of your macros. And then if you maintain that for a number of weeks, you will start seeing results. And if you don't see results, it just means you got to tweak a few things. That's all. Because remember, everybody's slightly different in terms of genetics. So your BMR is going to be different to what we've calculated in the mathematical model or what you've taken from the table if you use the quick start table. So those numbers we've talked about in the previous videos aren't for everybody. It's just a place to start. It's a starting place. And then from there, you can, put that into your applications, and then you can tweak it. Do your measurements from week to week and go, am I losing weight according to my goal, 1 to 3 pounds every week? Am I gaining weight of 1 to 3 pounds every week if I'm building muscle? If I'm not gaining, if I'm not losing, then something needs to change. What needs to change? The number of calories you're eating, right? So you might need to bump your calories up by 100 calories. You might need to drop them down by 100 calories. And then you're going to do it again. You're going to do your measurements a week later. Do the same thing. Am I going up in my weight, down in my weight? If I'm staying the same, and then you need to go back and make some tweaks and make some adjustments. That's all you need to do. This is the very foundation of what it takes to effectively lose fat without starving yourself, without going crazy, while hitting your macros, while having the foods you enjoy the most. Because what it comes down to now is just picking foods that you really enjoy eating, right? And then just matching them against those macros. And then if you're using MyNetDiary, just put them in. It tallies it up for you. And then it'll tell you that you have 40 grams of protein left or 15 grams of fat or whatever else. That's all you need to do. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to me. If you're still not sure, maybe go through the video again, watch it slowly, and you'll get it eventually. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.